And we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir.
Blake, I'm kind of going through it today, man. Last weekend was a little bit more me being used to the outcome for Notre Dame, what happened with Ohio State. But I got to tell you what, I was so freaking stressed at the end of that Duke game. I'm like exhausted mentally right now. We need to stop doing this. We need to stop doing this, Blake. And I know you are too today.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Trust me, this is going to be a very epic show.
Yes.
But as someone who is coming off a 6-2 record on his game picks this week, moi.
You one good week. Let's calm down.
Okay. As someone who is a football genius, moi.
Sure.
Let me do. Well, you know what, Joe? I mean, we could just play the clip. I mean,
okay. All right.
We picked Utah and Oregon State last week. This is what I said. Is it this one? Because, look, I watched Utah last week too, Joe, offensively. Yeah, I know that Utah held UCLA to 7 points, and that's fine and dandy with Dante Moore, the freshman. But, Joe, they can't score. One of their scores, their offense only scored 7. The first play from scrimmage was a pick 6. Offensively, they're anemic. Like, I'm telling DJU, man, listen, get me 14 points. We might have a chance here. And Oregon State in Corvallis pulls the upset against Utah and literally did exactly what I said was going to happen. 21-7. Give me the Beavs, Joe.
All right, you get your credit for calling that as well as you did.
People say I'm an SEC homer. I don't know about Pac-12 football. And exactly what I said was going to happen happened.
I think actually one of the funnier parts too is a lot of the Utah fans, some of them actually were getting mad at you. Yeah,
they were ripping me alive.
Yes, they were not happy with your description of them in the offseason. So it is very funny. Dude, it just stinks because this Utah team was a legitimate maybe contender, like a possible player.
No, they can't score.
Well, if Cam Rising was available and they were able to play him, and it looks like he might come in after the bye, if they had gotten him a week sooner, or if the bye week came a week sooner, it might be a completely different season for them. But to lose one game with as tight of a race as it's going to be in the Pac-12, like that might be enough to completely derail them. And I'm not saying derail them, they're going to lose the rest of their schedule, but one loss, you can't lose any other games the rest of the season if you want to win the conference. And it's going to be a tough year with one loss to make it into the playoffs. So it stinks that the whole quarterback Cam Rising injury situation, that Nate Johnson's been fun, but he can't throw the ball, and Bryson Barnes is very mediocre.
Well, as right as I was about that one, I think I was a little wrong about LSU and Ole Miss.
Well, we both were because, and we're going to get into this.
Oh, I'm about to get heated. Listen.
Wait, before you get heated, I just want to this has to be said, and I'm going to probably reiterate it in a few minutes after the ad break, but where the hell was that play calling against Alabama? It was like they threw the game against Alabama. I was so perplexed. They called a really good game. They played their asses off. Ole Miss did. I didn't know that they had that gear in them because they haven't shown it to us yet. It's been a really weird start to the season for Ole Miss, and they decided to unload right when they played you guys, which sucks.
Here's the ultimate question. Is A&M the best team in the West?
I don't know if I go that far.
They got Alabama this week, and I told you an interesting stat. Mm-hmm. The only two teams in college football that have gone on the road in back-to-back weeks and won both of those away games, 2019 LSU, 2022 Georgia. This is the second road game for Alabama. They go to A&M this week. I'm just telling you, I might take the Aggies. We talked a lot of shit on Jimbo, but listen, I might want to pump the brakes a little bit on the firing him. Might want to pump the brakes.
I'm not going to dive into that part of that statement, but I don't know, dude. I wasn't really impressed by the way that Texas A&M played against Arkansas. They benefited from a pretty piss poor performance from Arkansas, and Texas A&M played well for what they needed to do to win that game, and they capitalized on a lot of errors, but they're nowhere near playing clean right now. And I don't know if Max Johnson is going to be able to move the ball against that Alabama defense, because if Jackson Dart struggled as much as he did, and then we saw the real Jackson Dart show up against LSU, I just don't know if that's going to be that might be a very long afternoon.
Johnson has a better running game and receivers around him.
He doesn't have a better running game.
Yes, he does have.
He's got a better offensive line. I will say.
No, he's got two running backs that have more yards than Judkins did. Just because LSU, he did that against LSU. Look, and we can get into this. LSU's defense is putrid.
Yeah, it's bad, and we're going to talk about that in a second.
It's really bad. Don't let the LSU performance fool you. They suck defensively. They suck. And I'm going to just tell you the truth. After this ad break, we're going to talk about them number one. I'm about to lose my fucking mind. All right? Because I know that a lot of people that know, we trying to tell you. You still suck. You should have lost to Duke. I love you, Joe. You're not going to beat USC. You're not going to beat USC. You're not. You suck massive tits.
Okay, our multiple our starting receivers were out, but we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Joe, the entire defensive backfield damn near for LSU's out. Hold on. The entire damn near backfield is out with injury. Starting DB J.K. Johnson's out for the year, broke his leg at the beginning of the year. Greg Brooks had a tumor. Nobody gets a pass. Nobody gets a pass when it comes to these injuries. I don't want to hear shit.
But those guys are going to be back for Notre Dame when they play USC.
Makers on the outside to stop Caleb Williams. That's the bottom line.
Your secondary got smoked.
15 of 30.
And despite us not having receivers, we still won. We still won despite not having any receivers, Blake. So which one of those worked better? Which bad unit performed better? Well, we should get to the ad break.
You would rather just have the defense play good so you can stay in it.
We're wasting all the yelling that's going to come up. Well, we should hit the ad break and go over everything that we're gonna.
You better get ready for this, Joe. I'm just telling you, I'm about to lose my cool.
Okay.
I'm taking it out on you. It's like,
yeah. What else is new?
I don't know. I gotta yell. I'm mad.
I mean, that's why we do this show. It's for us to yell.
Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share to all those social media groups. If you're on Facebook, share to all those social media pages. If you're listening to us on YouTube. Guys, I got to admit, man, Joe, our YouTube channel completely blowing up. You guys, thank you so much for everything that you do for us there. Do us a favor by hitting the like and share all those group share to your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. We greatly appreciate when y'all do that. If you're listening to us, wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. You're watching us on Fubo TV. Welcome. Let's talk about our good friends at Bet Online. We're going to talk about LSU, Ole Miss, Notre Dame, and Duke. We'll break down Georgia in a little bit of trouble. We'll talk about that as well. Massive game this week. They have Kentucky and Georgia, two undefeated teams. Can Kentucky go into Athens and pull an upset? We might touch on that a little bit. And then USC and Colorado. And then we'll give our best. I think, Joe, at the end, we're going to give our best reactions. Ray Davis at Kentucky.
Oh,
Joe,
my God.
You got to throw him in the Heisman condition. He leads the country in touchdowns. Well,
thanks to Florida, he now does.
No, he went into it. He went into it with having more touchdowns than anybody. I mean, bro, he legitimately almost had a 300-yard rushing game. And by the way, everybody going into that game, myself included, said, well, Florida's defense is number one in every statistical category. Well, not anymore.
They've been over. They didn't want to play.
They better call Mia Khalifa because that's how bad
Jesus
Christ.
Let's
go to the ad break. We're back next.
BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
We're back. I got something for you. To our Texas brethren who are talking mad shit to us. You know who you are. You're short. Let me just say this. They have Oklahoma this week. Texas does. I don't call it the Red River rivalry. I call it the Red River shootout. You've beaten Rice, Alabama's worst offense in a decade, and 3 backup quarterbacks.
How do you really step up?
Spare me that you don't go into this game. If you think Dylan Gabriel is not going to eat you alive, Joe, can I be real with you?
Mm-hmm.
I would make sure that Dylan Gabriel doesn't even remotely get touched this week. I would drive him around to every class in a golf cart. I would put him in bubble wrap because the mistakes that Kansas had, the mistakes that Alabama had, Dylan Gabriel will not have those mistakes. We will talk about that later on this week. Joe, let's start off with this. LSU and Ole Miss, probably the game of the week because of how big this game was offensively. Multiple teams combined for well over, I think it was close to 1,400 total yards, somewhere around there. A lot of points scored. Ole Miss had 55. LSU had 49. Joe, in 97 games, when LSU had scored 49 points or more, they had won every single game besides one. That was the overtime loss that they had to Texas A&M with Joe Burrow in the 7 overtime game, and it was like 74, 72, whatever it was. Last night on my postgame show for LSU, I blew a gasket, and I'm going to blow a gasket here. I don't care. This goes for every single team. This isn't LSU related, just, it's not just for LSU. You could talk about Florida and Kentucky in this too.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, I don't care and don't really mind as much that Jackson Dart threw for 389 yards and 4 touchdowns, because when you have good quarterbacks and good play callers, guys like that can have performances like that. I don't mind doing that happening. We've seen in the past guys like Tua, Trevor Lawrence against really good defenses, really good teams, have 350, 400 yards passing. We've seen really good quarterbacks do that in the playoffs against really good defenses. You know what bugs the outright shit out of me, though, as an LSU fan? Let me tell you what bugs the outright shit out of me. Not only did you just look putrid defensively, the front 7, I honestly test your manhood a little. Like, how in the fuck do you allow 317 yards on the ground? How in the hell do you allow 317 yards on the ground? Because at some point, you can talk about scheme. LSU fans can run in there and say, fire Matt House, fire Brian Kelly. Sounds good. At some point, you got to man up. 317 yards on the ground for Ole Miss last night. They were beating the dog shit out of you. By the way, Tulane, Georgia Tech, and Alabama in consecutive weeks didn't allow Quinshon Judkins to go off. Now, he was a little banged up, and I get that. 317 yards on the ground? People want to say, look at Brian Kelly. No, this comes to a point where you got to man up. Joe, Florida, Kentucky, same thing for Florida. You want to know the same problems that you have? Your front 7 acts like they don't give a shit. They don't give. Name a time, you watch more Notre Dame football than anybody I know. Name a time that a Brian Kelly team defensively, besides that national championship game against Alabama, where a Notre Dame team allowed a team to run for 317 yards.
I mean, I don't know of any off the top of my head.
You know
the
why?
National championship game comes to mind immediately, though.
You know why? Can I tell you why? Because
Why?
not only did he have dudes ready to play, and they did the simple things right at Notre Dame, they actually gave a shit.
It's funny hearing you give credit to Notre Dame.
No, I mean, it's just the truth.
I know.
Take the bias out of it. LSU fans can get mad at me all they want to. Let's take the bias out of it. Joe, giving up that many yards on the ground, proves to me that you didn't care at times.
Blake, I think you hit the nail on the head there. That was my immediate thought and what I wrote down, takeaway from this game. Your defense played incredibly soft. And it's not like one of those games where you watch it and it's like, man, we just don't have a counter move for what they're calling. We don't have that counter move for what they're doing. There were way too many damn runs by Quinshon Judkins, and Trey Harris, I believe, is the Ole Miss receiver who had
from Louisiana, I might add,
an amazing game, barreling through soft would-be tackles. All of that stuff is an identity thing. It is a mentality thing. That comes down to coaching. That comes down to preparation the week leading into a game. When
Joe,
you looked on
well before that, though, that happens during the summer.
Yes. But what I'm getting at here is I don't know how you cannot, as a collective group, as a front seven, and as a defensive line unit, all the whole defense, not watch the film leading up to this game and not be licking your chops and thinking, oh, we're about to get 8 sacks. We're about to hold this team to under 100 yards rushing. That offensive line for Ole Miss has been terrible to start this season. And they got bullied by a unit that is one of the worst in the SEC. I just don't know how it can be that far on the opposite end of the spectrum of our expectation. I do give Ole Miss a lot of credit, though. I mean, they showed up. They showed up in a game that was do or die, where they needed to go 1,000,000 miles per hour. And they knew that this was going to be a shootout. The only way that they were going to win is if it was a shootout and they were the ones with the last bullet in the chamber.
Well, and
that's what happened.
Brian Kelly at the end of the game said, I don't like playing games like this. Well, then why did you allow it?
I don't like playing games like this. It's 2023. Well, you're a college football coach. What?
Well, no, what he means is, I know what he's trying to say.
Okay.
He doesn't like having games where defenses can't make stops. He wants to be able to, and I think coaches to his like Saban, Kirby, Kelly, the only one that really does it effectively like this is Lincoln, but it doesn't pay off for him in the long run, in the playoffs.
Uh-huh.
But Joe, you know what else I'm going to say? They did not have an answer schematically for Ole Miss. They didn't change anything. The one time, the 2 times when I watched film today that they changed something, Ole Miss went for it on 4th down. A true freshman comes off the edge. He bats the ball down. Okay, you get a turnover on downs. LSU then throws a fade route, which, by the way, you know what sucks? You know what really sucks? And I know that you had the hot take about Jane Daniels and the Heisman thing earlier in the year. Joe, he's averaging 400 yards and 4 touchdowns a game. The simple nature that Jane Daniels arguably, because of the teams that he's played, he's like, I think Michael Penix Jr. has 2,008 total yards on the year. Jaden Daniels has 2,002. Like, he is right there as of having, Joe, you have a quarterback that is having a Heisman year. He is having a Heisman year. And defensively, you are not even changing anything schematically. You're not. Like, they went into there and said, this is what we're going to run. At some point, Joe, you know what you got to do? You can't get home with the front 4. Send some blitzes. Go 0 man-to-man coverage. Go 0 blitz. You know why? Because it doesn't matter if they score. They're going to score anyway. They're going to score anyway. You got to change something. You got to do something different. If you don't do anything different, Joey Freshwater is going to kick your ass.
You bring up a really good point about Jane Daniels. And by the way, that's a great observation. At what point do you realize nothing we're doing is working And if we're going to be overly aggressive and we're still giving up points not being overly aggressive.
They blitzed 3 times that I counted all game.
Right. If you're not being aggressive and they're continuing to score, what is the difference if you just send 8 at that point? I would send everybody at that point.
Like it's Madden.
That's what, and we're going to talk about the Duke Notre Dame game. That's what Duke did. Duke was like, you know what? They're kind of moving the ball.
Former Brian Kelly DC. Who would have thought?
Exactly. And what they started to do, they said, you know what, screw it. There's going to be a couple guys open. We're just going to send everybody because that offensive line is doing great. It's the only way that we're going to create pressure. So you bring up a really good point. I think the thing that, as you've said, is very frustrating for LSU is that you're right. Jane Daniels has been phenomenal this year. I'm not going to go as far as to say the Heisman thing. And
so he leads.
I don't, wait. I don't want to talk about the Heisman stuff right now. I don't want to talk about the Heisman stuff right now. My point is that he is playing better than my expectation. There was that one throw that he had later on in the game where he delivered a very tight window throw, a really, really tight, narrow window throw to score a touchdown. I forget who he connected with. That's a really tough throw to make. And he's an aggressive player. He's not afraid to take those chances.
I mean,
I'd like him
fumbled.
I would like for yes, I was going to say, I'd like for him to maybe stop being a little stupid with some of his aggressiveness, like not trying to run out of bounds or,
well, it doesn't matter. Every time he ran out of bounds, they hit him anyway.
There were a number of throws that he also had where he was really forcing the thing into double coverage and just trying to hope somebody can make a play on the ball.
Oh, they did.
They did. And at the end of the game, it did cost them in some of those situations. But Jane Daniels has been great. And you would have thought that maybe if LSU has 2 losses up to this point, it would have been because Jane Daniels was struggling and was having problems. But that's not the case. Your defense is not only weak, it's terrible. It's not good. Something has to be changed if there needs to be a turnaround. And Luther Burton's going to run all over you guys if you don't show up and prepare.
Here's something that I said last night. Okay, Joe, you're not going to agree with this. Nobody's going to agree with me, and it's okay. I know that Brian Kelly's an offensive dude. I know that he's called plays at Notre Dame. I know he called plays at Cincinnati in reference to offensively. Dog, for the first 15 years of your career, you called defenses.
Maybe he needs to.
I mean, listen, you don't pay it. Say what you want about the man. Say what you want. Notre Dame fans are going to eat me alive in saying this. It's fine. I don't really care. Your girlfriend's cheating on you. Bottom line, okay, I might go. I don't go. Listen, I do not go to press conferences on Mondays. I've never done it. I didn't do it under Orgeron. I hadn't done it on the Kelly. I'm thinking about going tomorrow and being like, hey, you thinking about calling plays defensively? Because what else is going to change? Now, Matt House did some decent things last year, but you know what he was also surrounded by? He was surrounded by 5 seniors in the DB room that knew what they were doing. He was surrounded by dudes up front that gave a shit. And now they don't. You got a freshman linebacker. By the way, just going to throw this out there. Here's a crazy stat for you. You ready? Everybody keeps telling me from a Harold Perkins perspective. What are you doing with Harold Perkins? Joe, they ran the ball to his general direction or his side of the football 87% of the time last night. 87% of the time. Do you want to know the yards per carry? 8.9 yards per carry.
Oh, my God.
So you can tell me all that you want in reference. Now, we've seen good pass rushes this happen to. We've seen Von Miller that happened to. LSU did it against Myles Garrett. They ran for 300 yards right at Myles Garrett all night long. We've seen that before. You got to give him help. He could not. Joe, they put the big tight end number 86 on Harold Perkins and said, go man-to-man and beat him. Joe, he beat him all night. He beat him all night. They didn't give him help. They didn't send pressure. They didn't send blitzes. They didn't change things schematically. And they were like, well, we're having problems lining up. But you know what? Then that's a personnel issue. I can live with you calling something and dudes missing it. They're already missing it. At what point do you go man-to-man coverage? They played 2 guys that had never started before. A true freshman 3-star who had 2 pass breakups, and LaTerrence Welsh. I don't know. You got a lot of dudes that look like Tarzan, play like shit.
I like that iteration of that saying. So, okay, this isn't just an LSU show, so I want to talk a little bit about Ole Miss, the Ole Miss perspective of this. Look, I'm feeling, I understand your pain, having already suffered through a loss of a game that you should have won. Like, I know that feeling. I know it all too well.
Ole Miss looked great offensively, dude.
Ole Miss looked great offensively. I got to just be blunt here and say this. That defense is not good enough for them to finish the stretch and finish with a really good record this year. They can win 9 games and somewhere down the line. I don't know off my head who the rest of the remaining schedule is, but they're going to.
They got Georgia. They got Arkansas at home this week, and I think they got Georgia.
Georgia might score like 35-plus points on them, which is a lot for them considering how much offensive trouble that they've been having with all the injuries that they've had. Ole Miss's defense is not good enough to match up with a lot of these teams in the SEC. The other aspect of this, again, Lane called a really good game. They were aggressive. They did everything that they needed to, but why aren't we getting more offensive play calling consistency and success, consistent success from Ole Miss?
Lane called, because you want to know why? Because Lane called plays. It's a lot like what happened last night, and we can talk about this in a minute, but Joe, Hugh Freeze called plays for Auburn yesterday against Georgia. You want to know why that game was closer? Because Hugh called plays. You want to know why LSU was getting their shit punched in? It's because Lane was calling plays. Everybody's like, no, he's not. The whole Ole Miss beat. No, it wasn't. But I can visibly stay on my television screen when he's got a play sheet and he's talking in the mic and the play's getting sent in.
I really do think that that's the case. I really do think that he was calling the plays because
1,000% what happened, Joe. I watched the whole damn game. I watched it twice now. I mean,
for that much of a different, it's not like it was a slight progression to go from the terrible output that they had against Alabama, who's a good defense. They're a really good defense, but let's be real with ourselves here. That is not an elite, unstoppable defense that you can't move the ball against. For them to go from that to 40-plus points and 700 yards, all of that stuff, they clearly are going back to Lane. I guess that they just need to stick with Lane for the rest of the year if they want to stay at hopes of staying in these games. I don't know why they won't admit it.
If Lane's going to call offenses, they can go into Athens and win. They can go into Athens and win. You know why?
I don't know if I go that far because I don't. That offensive line will get eaten up by Georgia.
True, but you know what happened? Yesterday, Jackson Dart literally was throwing the ball in 1.2 seconds. He threw the ball in 1.2 seconds yesterday against LSU in the first half. He was getting it and throwing it and getting guys out in space. And you know what you can't teach? Let me tell you what you can't teach. Speed. And they got it all over the place. Now, I agree. It's going to be tough for them to run the football, but yes. Will they? No.
Them running the football was a big reason why they had so much of an easier time in this LSU game, because you look at all the previous games so far this year, couldn't run the ball. Quinshon Judkins had one of his worst spans of his career, his early career so far. That lack of output running the ball has led to Jackson Dart forcing a lot of things and having to create with his legs. And now he's in a situation where there's much less pressure on him because you're able to run the football. I don't think that they can run the ball against Georgia. I just don't see that likely happening.
You know who does have defenses?
Who?
Oh, let me ask Elk's questions first before we switch gears. Rank from best to worst. Iowa offense, USC defense, LSU defense.
From best to worst. LSU defense, because I know that they can, like, there's at least something there that's correctable. And if you make some adjustments, you can at least perform a little bit better. USC defense second, because they stink, and we're going to talk about that.
I knew you were going to go this, but I knew it.
But the Iowa offense third. I mean, are you kidding me? They put up zero. I watched some like film, the all 22 copy of the Iowa Penn State game, and I have never seen a more bizarre play design than what Ferentz has been calling. Most of their route concepts, you've got receivers that just run into each other. And I know that, yes, there are concepts where you'll have crossing routes where you're trying to create a natural rub so that guys get open, but they literally run to the same location and then they stop. I don't really understand what the thought. thought process there. That offense is doomed.
You know who does have defenses?
Who?
Notre Dame and Duke. You want to go to that? Want to talk about them?
Yes.
All right, everybody do us a favor and hit the like and share. So Notre Dame comes all the way back, I guess, 90-something yard drive there at the end to beat Duke. Andre Estime gets the late carry with 32 seconds left. Whatever. Estime,
I'm just trying to help you.
I always say his name wrong. You can tell me 1,000 times. I continue to say it wrong. Estime had 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. Here's the thing, Joe. Sam Hartman, 15 of 30 for 222 yards. They came out, Notre Dame did, very aggressively. I was really surprised. That's the second game in a row that Mitchell Evans has looked like just an outright beast at tight end. Look, man, when you have tough games like this, you go on the road and you win. But, man, I still think that Notre Dame has a problem offensively. When they cannot run the football effectively, I just don't know if they either have the skill position players or if they have the offensive play calling that can, like, Joe, because here's the truth. I know that they held Ohio State to 17 points. I know that they held Duke to 13 points. The problem that I have is that there's going to be games on your schedule that's not going to happen for. And I know that USC down the road, their defense sucks. We'll talk about them. But man, you got to be able to find some better things offensively. This is back-to-back weeks that I feel like offensively you're a little anemic, man.
Okay, so first of all, yes, the criticism is justified, but they showed up in this game, and it was, unbeknownst to most people, we didn't find out until the commentators brought it up that multiple starters at the receiver position were out. I'm not giving him a pass, though. I to be blatantly honest with you, which is why I hate, in a way, agreeing with you, because it's not their fault that they only scored 21 points and they had so much trouble throwing the football, and there were so many downs where Hartman was just standing in the pocket and couldn't find anyone getting open. I am giving him a little bit of an excuse, but it's a problem that there's no depth when Jaden Greathouse and all those other guys, when there's a couple people out, when there's even just one receiver out of the game, but one of your top options.
Freshman, though, you should be able to have the depth. If him being out, that you should have dudes there.
That's what I'm getting at here, is that it's very concerning if they go down the rest of the season and they have a game where other guys are out, that they don't have enough options to turn to, that the offense doesn't just take a small step back. They are completely useless. They can't throw the ball when you're down a guy. That's a problem. Their lack of depth is going to hurt them. I think I'm starting to take a step backward on, I think that they could still be a playoff team. I'm slowly getting convinced that they're not going to reach it, because they're going to lose a game down the line, and it's going to be because they struggle to throw the football. I will say what bugged the shit out of me with Jared Parker is the beginning of the game, they were really aggressive. They were really, really aggressive. They took some shots. There was one that they didn't connect on. There was one that they did. They go with the fake punt. They were being really aggressive. And then the rest of the game, they just said, nope, we're not doing it anymore. We're going to go back to what we were doing. We're going to try and run the ball up the middle and not pick up any yards. We're going to get stopped in the backfield or at the line of scrimmage, and we're not going to take any shots. And a lot of the route concepts weren't aggressive. And they were up 10-0 at one point. To not continue to go after them when they had the opportunity to do so is concerning. Parker has shown some good stuff. He just needs to be more consistent. And it's all because of the result of how effed up the offensive coordinator search was. I don't want to go back to that conversation, but they have to keep being aggressive.
You have to have, though.
Yes. But my point here is they have to go back to being aggressive. I don't know why they did it for one isolated drive and then just stopped. It was so stupid that they did that.
I'm going to ask you a question that you're not going to like.
You usually do. So what's the question?
Is this offensive line as good as everybody keeps telling me they are?
Yes, it is. They faced a really good front seven and a very veteran front seven.
And
And they sent pressure.
How many of those dudes play in the league?
They sent at least I'm blanking on the one kid's name. One of the kids will. I think it's Carter.
So one NFL dude on that defense.
They sent so much pressure on every single down because they had nothing to lose, like we talked about earlier.
That doesn't stop, though, Joe, in run blocking schemes and zone blocking schemes. That does not stop you not getting a push. They were not getting pushes. You went 3 of 15 on third down.
I'm not putting any blame on the offensive line. I'm not putting any blame on the O-line.
It's not as good as you. It's not as great of an O. Joe Alt is the best left tackle in the game. I will give you that. I'm not disputing that. You got a problem on that right side of the offensive line, though. I watched that game today, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, they're going right at the right guard all night long. Let me see that thong.
Elko is an aggressive defensive coordinator, and he's going to do whatever he wants, or he's an aggressive head coach, and defensively their play calling is going to do whatever the hell they want once they realize what there might be a sliver of an exposure. Okay. So that's what they did in this game. What also doesn't help, and it all goes in line with the play calling and the decision-making, when they're sending that much pressure for them not to call any screens, I put that on the play calling decision-making. I don't put that on the offensive line. There was no alleviation. There was no decision-making to alleviate any of that pressure. It just kept coming and getting worse.
And Joe, against an offense in Duke that's not, outside of Riley Leonard, they're not that great. You know what else is a little concerning? I did think that front seven got pushed around late in that game. Joe, there are times that I look at that game like, God, dog, those running lanes are open. You can't, I promise you can't do that against USC. I know that USC's defense is trash water. I get it. You cannot do that against USC. I really do question if they can stop them.
USC doesn't score more than 30 points on the defense.
I told you about Ben Morrison. Joe, he got shook multiple times out in space. He got put. You want to see the film? Do you want to see the film? Because
Are you talking about him as a tackler?
Yeah, you're talking about 230-pound backhand him with the
He's not a great tackler, but he's a corner.
Marshall Falk juke move. You remember on Madden when you had to play the training camp?
It's not his job to defend the run. That's not his priority.
It's everybody's job to defend the run.
It obviously is, Blake, but I'm not worried about Ben Morrison. They eventually, the attrition of them having a quarterback and a running back that they could scheme in the run game, and the way that they were effectively using both of them is why they were able to move the ball. I wouldn't necessarily go out of the way to say that it was them getting manhandled on those final drives. They weren't getting pushed around that badly. It was the fact that there was now this threat that they couldn't figure out how to stop of Riley Leonard keeping the ball, and they were all flooding one way or the other. They are either flooding in the direction of Leonard or to stop the run game going to the running back. So they were out of position. That was not a matter of them getting pushed around. They're going to be fine when they play other games that have less dynamic quarterbacks that they're going to be facing.
Here's something that I did think was concerning, and I think you know where I'm going here. I know that you were 3 for 3 on fourth down, and I got to give Marcus Freeman credit. The penalties, though, 12 penalties for 70 yards. I'm not used to seeing that out of another.
They made a lot of mistakes.
A lot of mistakes. You know what's really concerning, though? I will concede everything you just said. Like, I will concede all of it. You know what I'm not going to concede?
Okay.
Horrible play calling on third down.
Yeah.
Horrible play calling on third down. 3 of 15 on third down, man. Like, you cannot do that down the stretch. I will admit that this Notre Dame team is good. Like, they're a really, really good football team. But when critical downs, if you do not win those, it's going to be it will be a long night for you. Here's what I don't get too, Joe.
Okay.
Why are you taking the ball out of Sam Hartman or Estime's hands on third downs?
In what way are you saying? Like, why weren't they throwing him the ball? Is that
meaning
what you're trying to say?
There's two runs that let me look at this kid's name because I always mess.
Jeremiah Love or Payne?
I think it was Payne. Payne had like 3 rushes. 2 of them comes on third downs. Jeremiah Love, okay, did have 8.8 yards per carry, but like, I mean,
it was because, and I actually don't have too much. I'm not too worried about that because they were trying to get Estime going in the fashion that he's been the most successful, which is between the tackles, downhill. That stuff wasn't opening up. So they were trying to go with the smaller, more explosive, space-eating running back. So I'm not too worried about that decision. It's a fair question, but I'm not totally worried about the decision. My final thought on this, I think that Notre Dame is still really good. Defensively, they can stack up with any offense in the country, and I think that they've proven that going up against teams.
Even Washington?
Yeah. I mean, they have shown – wait. Riley Leonard had single-handedly beat Clemson the way that he played. Riley Leonard is a really good –
single-handedly beat you.
Riley Leonard – exactly. And they still took him out of the passing game. They completely removed that facet of his game.
He can't throw anyway.
Yes, he can. He's going to be a first-round pick. I'm telling you that right now. Riley Leonard is a very good quarterback. He's a very good thrower of the football. Very good, very good passer. Very talented player.
I'm not. Stop.
I've done the film eval. The guy is really freaking good.
Stop.
What I'm getting at is that Notre Dame's defense is good enough to match up with most offenses, if not all the offenses in the country. They have shown an ability to do that the way that they played against Marvin Harrison and Emeka Ibuka and the Ohio State offense that was supposed to hang a bunch of points on them. But their offense is going to cost them at a certain point this year. It's going to.
Well, yes, they will. But let me just say this. Do not tell me again that there aren't 10 quarterbacks in the country right now you would not take over Riley Leonard. And by the way,
no, he's going to be like the fifth. He was the 4th quarterback on my board coming into the season.
He ain't the 4th quarterback in college football right now.
Guys are allowed to have a bad football game. You give me shit for all the time when I get up on somebody.
And you know what? Maybe you should start listening to me about quarterback play.
Maybe you should start listening to me about quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson almost
wrong.
beat the Rams today.
You literally just came out here the other night about DJU, and I told you don't do it.
DJU played like shit in that game. DJU didn't do anything. That was the whole run game.
He had 6 critical runs on third down that won him the football
game. Runs, not throwing the ball. DJU's not a good quarterback.
Bro, all right, hush for just a minute. Let me ask you this goddamn question. Okay. Lamar Jackson, when he runs the ball on third down and gets the first down, doesn't matter if he fucking throws the thing or if he
can actually throw it, though, because he's a threat at both things.
It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. Wait, I need to look. Wait. DJU 14 for 25 for 204 a touchdown and interception. That's not a good game.
Name a receiver they have without looking at the box score. Cover your eyes and name a receiver.
The same damn thing is the case for Duke. They don't have any receivers. And he had no one to throw to. And he killed them with their legs.
You even playing out Corvallis on the damn map.
I don't know damn well where Corvallis is. Let's talk about Auburn, Georgia.
God, bro. I'm just telling you right now, Riley Leonard's not the 4th best quarterback in college football. He's not the 4th best prospect.
He's going to be a four. He's going to be
name 3 better quarterbacks in the SEC right now better than him.
Not draft prospects.
The fuck I can't.
All right, name 4 more that you think are going to have a better long.
Connor Wegman, Jaden Daniels, and I think Beck. When he's all said and done, it's going to be a better prospect than Riley Leonard will be.
Riley Leonard plays more NFL games than.
How much you want to take?
Except Weigman. I will concede Weigman because I really like Weigman, but I bet he starts and plays in more NFL games than Jaden Daniels and Carson Beck. Write that down.
Oh, I'm writing it down.
Most in the scouting community agree that Riley Leonard is a very good quarterback.
Because nobody in the scouting community has ever been wrong ever.
You're allowed to be wrong.
Daniel Jones.
Book's not out on him, man.
I literally have.
I hate Daniel Jones.
From you that you say that you hate Daniel Jones.
All right, let's look at this Georgia.
Listen,
Georgia Auburn game.
A lot of people continue to beat down on Georgia. Okay, a lot like how people were beating down on Michigan. Now, my best bets on AYS this week, Joe, I did take both Georgia and Michigan to cover, and Michigan covered, Georgia didn't. I probably should. My buddy Pate State, who we interacted on Twitter this week, I probably should have listened to him. He's been to one-score games every single week, and he told me not to take Georgia to cover, and I probably should have listened to him. Okay. Hugh Freeze calling plays was a big deal, was a massive deal. But I see so many people, reacting to Georgia's not that good. Georgia's not that good. Georgia's not that good. Okay. All right. I get you. But they were anemic. They have had very bad slow starts. But in the second half, I will admit, for the first time this year, Carson Beck manned up and won them the football game. He manned up and won them the football game in a hostile environment, on the road, rivalry game, the South's oldest rivalry, and he continued to go to Brock Bowers. Dude, this is how beat up Georgia is too, by the way. They literally gave a fullback dive to Brock Bowers to try to get a critical third down. Like they are beat the hell up. And you know what? Everybody's putting down on their offense and the young man. I'm not going to do that. You know why I'm not going to do that? Because I don't know if he has the health around him. The right tackle, Mims, I think just had surgery. A lot of injuries surrounding him. They're a very, very young football team. And when they needed him the most, he stood up. I was like, man, this kid's growing up right before our eyes. I think that makes them a little bit more dangerous. Now, they have Kentucky this week. I think they beat Kentucky.
Yes.
I still think they're the best team in the SEC when it's all said and done. I think they might be still the best team in the country when it's all said and done.
So I think after this game, I am going to make a move. I'm going to push them back a little bit.
Who do you put at number one?
I'm going to put Michigan there. I just really think that Michigan has at times half-assed, and when they've decided to turn it on, they've really, really kicked the crap out of some teams. I think Georgia, their case and why they haven't been playing well, which is I'm not holding this against them at all. I'm not holding them against them. You just talked about the injuries that they've been dealing with offensively. That's why they've been having so much trouble moving the ball, but it's still an issue. If at the end of the season, the same injuries continue to linger, and a lot of times, I'm telling you right now, and as both of us having both played know this, just because you recover from an injury doesn't mean you're still not hurt the whole season. They're going to be lingering injuries that stick around for the rest of the year. If this is how they're going to play, maybe they get a little bit better. There has been some signs of weakness that have shown. The only way that you can correct that is them getting healthy again. And it's going to take some time. I will say, and I don't get why I had some people trying to dunk on me on Twitter, that their defense is still really freaking good. I know that they gave up some splash plays and some long runs, and they gave up 17 points, but they are swarming all over the field. They get after ball carriers. They get a lot of tackles for loss. That defensive line might not be as freakish as it's been in the past, but it's still really goddamn good. Georgia is still in the top two conversation. We just might have to push them back a little bit because they've been banged up. Hopefully they get healthy. And if they do, look out. And he talked about Beck. I think that Beck is starting to show us that this is a guy who can be maybe not Stetson Bennett level, but can be a really good quarterback for this team as he grows and plays for this program more and more times. Brock Bowers, though, won them the game, man. Brock Bowers is put him on the Heisman list. I'm going to talk about him when we do standouts.
Oh, my God.
Dude, he is the best player in the country.
Dude,
he's the best player in the country.
You literally came in here and made fun of Desmond Howard for picking him to win the Heisman. Now look at you.
Wait, did I? I don't remember that.
Yeah, you came in here and made fun of Desmond Howard. Yeah, you did. Desmond Howard picked Brock Bowers to win the Heisman.
Well, he's not going to win it, but he should be in the conversation.
He should. He has no business being in the conversation.
Why?
Because, Joe, literally, he's trumped in every statistical category when it comes to receiving.
What do you mean?
Look at what look at what's happening in Washington, and I'm just going to say, look what's happening at LSU.
He's a tight end through 5 games. He has 413 yards, 30 receptions, and 3 touchdowns. He also does he have what are his rushing totals? Does he have any rushing totals? I don't
And he's definitely got 1 for 3 yards.
Still, that's unheard of statistically for a tight end to do this. It's unheard of. Nobody goes 8 for 157 and a touchdown and single-handedly wins your team the game. Tight ends don't do that.
Did you watch the Ole Miss LSU game? Did you actually watch it? And did you see what all those receivers did? Okay,
I did. I'm
still
giving it to Brock Powers over Jaden Daniels.
Right. You're an idiot. You're an idiot.
There's no way deal with it. Deal with it.
One guy has 400 yards per game and 4 touchdowns. The other one just had his 4th touchdown. One's averaging that a game.
He's a tight end on the. You just said the best team in the country.
Jr. is averaging 2 touchdowns per game and 157 receiving yards.
You just don't want to pick him because he's a tight end. It's fine. Just admit that you want to pick a quarterback.
In that conversation, let's grow up, Peter Pan.
It's not a matter of growing up. He's the best player in the country.
There's no pixie dust over here, Peter Pan. At some point, we got to grow up. All right.
It doesn't matter the position. Let
me say this about Georgia.
Yeah.
That secondary is the best in the country.
Yes.
They are the best secondary in the country. And you know what? If you know what I really am selfishly wanting to see, I want to watch Washington versus Georgia. I want to watch the best secondary in the country go against that passing attack. And
we might get that game, man. We might really get that game.
Yeah, we might get it. But I'm going to tell you this. I don't think Washington can bruh, that secondary from Georgia is something serious. They have the best 2 safety duo in the country. I mean, I know in the front 7 that they are not as what they used to be the last 2 years, but they have never had this secondary. I promise you they've never had this thing. Bullard, I think the Starks kid can play multiple positions, but he mainly plays corner. Reminds me a lot of Derek Stingley. Just unreal the amount of talent that they have in the secondary. Here's the thing, though, Joe. One thing I'm going to push back on you.
Okay.
They are doing this offensively with white dudes and walk-ons. Double W, WW, squared, okay? They are doing it with walk-ons. They are doing it with, tight end running backs. Number 86, I forget the kid's name. He's having to get things going on the ground for him at times. They are beat to hell. And you know what? They continue to find ways to win. And sometimes, Joe, when you name another team in the country, entertain me on this. Name another team in the country that can have the offensive dudes that are beat up like they are and still win games in a Power 5 conference.
Right. That's why
that is highly impressive, man. That's highly impressive.
That's why I'm not worried about them. I think a lot of people that are Georgia haters want to come out and say they're struggling. Their issues are going to catch up to them. They're going to lose a game. I think it's proof that they're still really dominant, that they're still going to be one of the best teams in the country at the end of the year, especially because the remaining stretch of their schedule is unbelievably winnable. They have had so many injury issues and they've still found ways to succeed. They're going to be fine. They're going to be completely fine.
All right, before we wrap this up, you want to talk a little about our Colorado USC and our best performances of the week?
Yeah, I mean, to just be very direct about USC's defense, that defense sucks, dude. That defense is, and USC fans, I don't care. You guys get so mad at me that he's a homer, he's a Notre Dame fan, he's talking down on USC. Your defense sucks. Yeah. It is unbelievably soft. Unbelievably soft. You gave up that many points to a Colorado team with the worst offensive line in the country. They also found success running the ball, which they haven't done at all this year. And they played Nebraska and Colorado State, and you let them run on you. They also let a true freshman receiver cook them.
Amari Miller from again, Louisiana.
Amari Miller had an amazing game. I give a ton of credit to Deion Sanders for his guys fighting the way that they did. But, dude, Alex Grinch could care less. I bet they don't even have defensive meetings. I bet they They just run around and practice for 45 minutes and then they go home. There's no way that is schemed up, prepared practice defense because they look terrible. Terrible.
Here's the issue that I have, okay, with their defense. I don't mind. I told you this to start the show. I do not mind when really good quarterbacks go off, meaning Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
He's a really, look, man, if USC would have been in a situation where Shedeur Sanders just goes off, so be it, right? Like, okay, let's chalk it up. It's a great quarterback. He has some good wide receivers. They went off. You know, I agree with you on this. You know what bothers me if I'm a USC fan today is that a team that could not run the football on anybody ran for 193 yards on the ground. That's what bothers me. Hankerson, Sanders even got involved. Edwards, Horn had a long run. They legitimately, and none of them, here's the crazy part, none of them had 5 yards per carry, not one, other than Jimmy Horn, not one. Shedeur Sanders using his legs makes this team a very different team. Now, I'm going to throw this out at you. I know that Colorado has a very tough schedule moving forward.
Yeah.
If Shedeur starts using his legs more, they're going to upset somebody that they're not supposed to.
Oh, yeah.
They will.
Yeah.
That running attack, that is the biggest bugaboo for USC. I don't know why Alex Grinch is still employed. I have no idea. Now, the one good thing for, like we talked about Notre Dame earlier, the one good thing is you're going to be able to run the football on them. If Colorado can do it, you're going to kick their ass. Bear Alexander got pushed around. I think, what was it, the Foreman kid a little? So they are so bad in the front seven. Tackett Curtis got pushed. I mean, they're just so bad. I can't believe what I'm watching sometimes, dude. I really can't. USC's a fraud. They're great offensively, but they are a fraud. I don't think that they can, like, they were my Pac-12 winner. Because I thought
they're not winning it. They're not going to.
I don't think that they can. When they play these more physical running teams, I do think that Washington has still struggled at times. Look, Joe, at tackle, Washington's really bad. They are really bad at tackle. I'm just – look, I've played the position. I'm telling you, both of their tackles are going to be hot garbage when they have to play
Washington. Troy Fautanu is going to be a top pick. I'm just
Joe. Do you want me to turn on the film?
Those are two of the best offensive linemen in the country.
Have you ever played offensive line? I will turn on.
I played offensive line in high school. Does that count for anything?
Fuck no. I promise you that kid is going to get abused when he faces somebody worth his salt.
They're all conference players also, so it's not like I'm just saying that to say that.
Smith for LSU. So was that entire front seven for LSU, and what happened?
To keep this on USC, look, I think that one thing I wanted to bring up that you were kind of hitting on this. Oregon decimated Colorado, like completely removed them from the game. There was no doubt that they were going to win that football game. And then they took, they completely pulled back at the end of that game.
Is this a true statement?
I mean, yeah, I think that's not wrong. You can find some parallels.
Could LSU beat USC?
Can, yes. I don't know who wins that game. It'd be a fun game to watch because there'd be a million points.
Yeah, it'd be a shootout.
What I was getting at, though, is I just think that Oregon, the way that they played against Colorado, is pretty clear that USC couldn't replicate that. And there's a big difference in the way that both of those teams showed up to play in that game. You should be concerned if you're a USC fan.
Best performances of the week. Who's yours?
It's Brock Bowers. It's Brock Bowers, man. They won that game because of what Brock Bowers did. He put the team on his back. They needed him to make big, key, important plays down the stretch. He played out of his mind. It's absolutely him.
I got two. I think Ray Davis from Kentucky, somebody that has over 250 yards rushing, Joe. I mean, I do think that he should be in the Heisman discussions, okay, because of now he's got a tough task the next couple of weeks. I don't think he'll get that again, but I mean, he is ridiculously good. And I'm going to be a homer on this one, dude. I got to give it to Jaden Daniels. I have to. He accumulated for 500 yards of total offense and 5 scores.
Yeah, he had a great game.
Well, it's not just that, man. Like, I mean, if this were anybody else in the country that had 500 yards and 5 touchdowns, regardless in a win or a loss, we would be just like, oh my God, look how good he is. I have never seen, let me just tell you that I have never seen an LSU player in my life do what he's done and not get the love that he deserves.
Well, his performance is overshadowed by defensive ineptitude. That's the problem, is no one's after that game going, look at Jaden Daniels. It's, oh my God, what is LSU going to do on defense? That has completely overshadowed him. And it sucks. It sucks for him that that's the case.
See you guys again tomorrow.
We'll be back.
Stop yelling at me.
You started it.
I'm calling your mother. Before we get out of here, let me do this.
Ruffino and Joe Show is brought to you by Home Field Apparel, which is the best, without a doubt, premium collegiate apparel brand that is out there. They have over 150 different colleges that you can choose from, whether you're an Illinois fan or a Rutgers fan, maybe you're an LSU fan like Blake, or maybe you're an Alabama fan. Whatever it is, even Idaho, they have so many different designs for so many different football programs that I can guarantee you're going to find some great stuff to help root for your favorite team. I've already gotten my Notre Dame stuff. Blake has his LSU stuff. Make sure you head on over to homefieldapparel.com to check out your team's collection of clothing apparel that they have on the website. And when you do so, when you check out, make sure you use promo code RuffinoJoe to get 15% off your order. That is RUFFINO, Ruffino Joe. Head on over to homefieldapparel.com and get your college gear today.
See you guys Monday. Peace.